Do you believe the Treasury Secretary when he says this was always the plan, to pause tariffs after using them as leverage? Or do you think they're just winging it?
Jake, it feels pretty haphazard to me. I don't see the strategy. I mean, it's very reactive, but to some degree, thank goodness. I mean, the stock market, when I got up this morning, I took a look. The futures were down. We were in bear market territory, down more than 20% from the previous peak, and it felt like there was going to be a lot of red today. And the bond market, that's really something. Bond yields are rising, which is really a sign that perhaps global investors are losing faith in the safe haven status of the United States, which is a very big deal. So they reacted to that, and that's good news. But the bad news is we're still here with the tariffs. I mean, you pointed out the Chinese tariffs, 125%, even taking away the so-called reciprocal tariffs. If you add it all up, Jake, the overall effective tariff rate today, right now, is the same as it was at the beginning of the day, about 25%. So I don't think the coast is at all clear here. We got a lot of script to be written.
Right. I mean, these 125% tariffs are still pretty huge. And I mean, Americans buy clothes made in China, sneakers made in China, phones made in China, laptops made in China, trinkets, housewares, et cetera, et cetera. And those expenses, the tariff, that's going to be passed on to the consumer, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's $600 billion in trade between the two countries. The only other place that we trade more with is the European Union, and of course that's a bunch of countries. So this is a big deal, and 125%. That's more than doubling the price on everything that you just mentioned, and that means that the trade between these two countries could come to a complete standstill or virtually so. And the impact of that on the U.S. economy, on the Chinese economy, will be devastating. So even though the reciprocal tariffs are down, at least for the time being, for 90 days, we'll see how this goes. We're still left with very high tariffs. It's still going to be a very large, if what's currently being proposed is actually implemented, it's still going to be a massive tax increase on American consumers and businesses. And I don't think, what we saw today in the stock market is the end of the story. There's a lot more red to be had here.
The chief economist at consulting firm RSM said today, quote, "My sense here is that the U.S. economy is still likely to fall into recession given the level of simultaneous shocks that it's absorbed. All this does is postpone temporarily what will likely be a series of punitive import taxes put on U.S. trade allies." Do you agree? I mean, I guess Jamie Dimon said something similar, that he still thinks the likelihood is that there will be a recession caused by all of this.
Yeah, I think recession is more likely than not. I mean, even the delay just creates another problem. That's just you said, where's my my neck brace? I mean, it just creates a lot of uncertainty. Up, on again, off again, and that serves as its own tax on the economy because businesses freeze. They don't know what to do with that. Federal Reserve doesn't know what to do with that, so they can't respond to what's going on. Consumers, are very nervous about it. So, even though we might not get the reciprocal tariffs right now, and maybe we'll never get them, the uncertainty that this creates, I think, puts a miasma over the economy, and recession risks are clearly very high.
Is President Trump's tariff pause too little too late for the U.S. economy? And does it signify any sense of predictability or stability? Even though almost all the tariffs that took effect at midnight are now paused for 90 days, except China, which will see tariffs increase to at least 125%. Goldman Sachs says this pause does not change their forecast, which stands at a 45% chance of recession. Trump's tariff pause this afternoon sent markets back up. They're in the green now after days of plunging in the red. The reason for all the recent volatility and confusion, all that money lost from 401ks and pensions, was because of President Trump's haphazard, mixed messaging. 1 week ago today, it seemed the Oprah giveaway approach to tariffs. Every country knew they were probably getting something. They just didn't know exactly what until the world saw the Trump tariff chart, which incidentally, according to conservative economists, was calculated incorrectly, though the Trump team denies that. All the while, Trump officials were insisting these tariffs were not negotiating a tactic. They were here to stay.
I don't think there's any chance that President Trump's going to back off his tariffs.
Will the president reassess his approach? No, the president is firm in his approach, and the president is ensuring economic stability here in the United States of America.
Would you be open to a pause in tariffs to allow for negotiations?
Well, we're not looking at that.
He's not considering an extension or a delay. He expects that these tariffs are going to go into effect.
They did technically go into effect for all of 13 hours, but then Trump said the bond market's very tricky. He was watching it, but last night people were getting a little queasy. And now, according to his administration officials, this tariff pause is the plan the whole time, and it's four-dimensional chess.
This was driven by the president's strategy. He and I had a long talk on Sunday, and this was his strategy all along.
His strategy all along. CNN's Jeff Zeleny at the White House. And Jeff, you just spoke with the president after he made this announcement, and you asked him about his change of plans. What did he say?
Well, Jake, the president is taking credit for what he calls historic gains in the stock market. Never mind the fact that they were made after the historic losses that his policy caused. Throughout the day here, I can tell you, this felt like the first Trump administration, where administration officials and advisors and aides were scrambling to keep up with the about-face decision-making that was underway. But we did ask the president what led to all of this confusion. Can you walk us through your thinking about why you decided to put a 90-day pause?
Well, I thought that people were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, you know? They were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid.
You said that these tariffs would go into effect on Monday. You said no pause. And today there is a pause. So how can people believe your word today?
It's not a question of that. You have to have flexibility. I could say, here's a wall, and I'm going to go through that wall. I'm going to go through it no matter what, and keep going, and you can't go through the wall. Sometimes you have to be able to go under the wall, around the wall, or over the wall.
So talking about credibility there, that was the question. How can anyone believe the president's words, from foreign leaders to business leaders, going forward if he changes course and he brushes it off as flexibility? And just moments ago in the Oval Office, he was signing a series of executive orders and effectively taking somewhat of a victory lap after this really tumultuous week here. And the question is, at this hour, Jake, was all of this worth it? Was it worth the trillions of dollars in losses? And that is a question the president has not answered.
Jeff, just last night before this pause, Trump said he would soon announce other tariffs, these targeting pharmaceuticals. This has a lot of people worried. How can we have any idea what the tariff policy is going to be, given all of the capriciousness, the back and forth, the changing of the mind? It just seems like, I mean, Wall Street values, and any business values, predictability.
Predictability and certainty has been completely in short supply, and that's an understatement. I mean, the reality is the president has talked about pharmaceutical tariffs. You're right, Jake. We have no idea if he will impose them or not. And adding more uncertainty onto this, the president was also asked, he was at an event in the South Lawn of the White House with the NASCAR players and some cars there. That's where we asked him the question. And he was also asked about exempting other businesses from tariffs going forward. He said that's something he will keep in mind. So what we do know, this policy is very much an on-again, off-again one. But what it has led to is a sense of that feeling, once again, of that first-term chaoticness where he was reacting to things. But for all the talk about how he does not look at the stock market, today he acknowledged he did.
But also, the Treasury Secretary said that this was a plan, but Trump himself, in the soundbite you just played for us, he said he did this because people were getting queasy and yippy.
He did, and he said on the bond markets as well. He said last night he was noticing that. He was watching, he acknowledged watching some advisors, some business leaders on business television, and he acknowledged, he said the quiet part out loud, which the president often has done over the years. He said, the unease in the market was one of the things that led to this. That's what I mean by when I say administration officials were rushing to catch up with him, because the Treasury Secretary, of course, was deeply involved in this, but he said it was the president's decision, not the markets. Jake.
Jeff Zeleny, doing a yeoman's job there at the White House. Thank you for trying to explain this to us.